Welcome to the Windows Central Podcast, episode 82 for February 9th, 2018. Hey there guys, Zach Bowden here, joined by special guest Sean Endicott for another exciting episode of the Windows Central Podcast. Dan is away on vacation this week, so I'm taking charge. We have our apps editor Sean standing in, and we're going to be talking about a bunch of different topics worthy of note this week, including Windows 10 S Mode, Build 2018 dates, the new Insider build, and a whole bunch of other things. So hello Sean, how are you?
I'm good, and I'm even better because I get to finish the week with a podcast with you.
Yes, Sean, if you don't know, me and Sean used to do a podcast on another website a long time ago, and this is the first time we're podcasting again since maybe 2 years, a bit less than that.
Yeah, it's been a long time, yeah.
It's been a while, but yes.
I think since then I've gotten married and bought a house.
There you go. See, we're living life to the fullest right here. But yes, let's just dive into our first story, the Windows 10 Insider build. So yes, Microsoft released a new build this week, build 17093. It's likely going to be one of the last Redstone 4 builds before Microsoft starts pushing out Redstone 5 builds to skip ahead users. This build did include some noteworthy changes, that being with the game bar. The game bar's been redesigned. This is pretty late in the game for a redesign
and
of some element. It does look good though. It's a sort of half fluent designy, half just modern looking game bar now. It's a bit bigger. The icons on it are circle. It shows your username and stuff, the time. It's actually really nice, and of course you can access it by the Windows key and the G button on your keyboard. I say it's half fluent designy because it doesn't have any reveal effects or acrylic, which is odd. But everything else does look very fluent, so that's pretty nice. And yeah, that's one of the most noteworthy changes in that build. They've also done some other changes to diagnostic data and stuff. They've added graphics improvements to the settings app. And one of the biggest changes is a change with Windows 10s. Now we'll be talking more about Windows 10s in a minute because I've seen a lot of confusion regarding some news that came out this week regarding Windows 10s dying and Windows 10s mode being a thing. We'll talk more about that in a second. But in this build for 17093 specifically, Microsoft is making it so you don't have to use passwords anymore. So this works with the Microsoft Authenticator app on your phone, but if you're using a Windows 10s device, you can just use that app, and you don't need a password ever. So when you log into your Microsoft account, it will say, hey, here's the Authenticator app, just press yes on there, and you won't even need to type in your password, which is a cool idea. What's odd is that it's Windows 10s only. And Microsoft, nobody's been able to give me a good reason why it's Windows 10s only. Some people have been like, yeah, I think it's because of the security enhancements that 10s has. But that's kind of rubbish, because 10s is just Windows 10 Pro, as it always has been. So that doesn't really make much sense. Then there's other changes in this build, including Windows Hello showing up on the lock screen, even if you don't have Windows Hello set up, which only works on devices where you have a Windows Hello enabled sort of peripheral. So if you have a fingerprint reader or a face cam, it will show up on the lock screen even if you haven't got it set up. And this is to sort of raise awareness that this is a feature that exists. So if you click on the Windows Hello button in the login screen, it will take you straight to the Windows Hello setup once you type in your password, of course, and then it will just use Windows Hello from now on. So that's a nice addition as well. There's also some eye control improvements, Windows security improvements, and also one of the other nice changes is now some Bluetooth peripherals will show up as ready to pair straight away on the desktop, so you just press one button and it'll connect, whereas before you'd have to go in and into the settings app and manually pair it. But now
I saw that with the precision mouse on Twitter. It looks really nice.
Yeah, it's weird because I think right now it only works with some Surface accessories, including the precision mouse, but it doesn't work with all of them. I did try with the touch mouse first, and it didn't see it, but the precision mouse worked almost instantly. So I guess they're slowly adding more peripherals over time. But apart from that, that's pretty much all the most noteworthy changes. Again, we're at the tail end of development in regards to Redstone 4. Redstone 5 development has started internally, and I think skip-ahead users will be getting one soon. What do you think of this new build, Sean?
I think it's pretty exciting. I mean, you're running it and doing the podcast, so that means that we're pretty close.
Well, yeah, I mean, funnily enough, so in Redstone 4, so quite a few things have changed in regards to settings in Redstone 4. I was using Redstone 3 earlier today on my main PC, which is the one I do the podcast off usually, but I decided to be a little bit risky and upgrade to Redstone 4, forgetting that they have sort of pulled out all the old legacy control panel applets and put it into settings now. So I was lost. I was just about 5 minutes ago, I was trying to find the option to change my microphone thing, and I can't find it. I eventually found it, but it wasn't working. So I don't know if that's a bug of the build or if something's just conflicting with something else on my install right now. But Yeah, they have changed a lot of things in Resident 4, even if the update doesn't look like a major one, which I've seen a lot of people on Twitter complain about. They're like, oh, Resident 4 seems kind of tiny. The only new thing in its timeline, which in regards to features, yes, but other things have changed in this release that make it for a much sort of different update. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see how people react to that.
Yeah, exactly. I think there have been a lot of under the hood and things moved around. Obviously, you guys have been talking quite a bit, and all of us have been talking quite a bit over the last few weeks about the future of Windows 10 and the direction that they're going in. And they're eventually going to have to move all these things over. And it's tempting to think, oh, why don't they just do it all at once? But then it feels almost like too much of an overhaul. Here, every major update, a few big features from the control panel or somewhere else end up in the settings app, which becomes more and more comprehensive. And I think that's a good thing. It gets people used to opening up a modern looking app. It's similar to like settings on an iPad or a tablet that people are more familiar with. It's not this. I think people might get intimidated by the control panel. I know that sounds silly to a lot of our listeners because a lot of them are very technical, but the settings app is a lot more accessible. And I think they're generally doing a good job moving things over, though there is a learning curve.
Yeah, they're slowly categorizing some of the categories and settings now. So if you go into, say, privacy, for example, the sidebar will be categorized accordingly, so you can see all the different privacy settings that match what you're looking for. Same for the ease of access area. They're oddly the only two places where that categorizing is happening right now. I assume that they will add it elsewhere at some point, but since this is Windows as a service, it doesn't matter when it happens, as long as it happens at some point in the future. So yes, that's pretty much it for build 17093. Also worth noting this week, in regards to builds and Resident 4 specifically, is PWAs. Microsoft sort of outlined their plan for introducing PWAs to Windows 10 and the Microsoft Store with Resident 4. So Microsoft announced last year that PWAs was something they were focused on, and that they were targeting Resident 4 for that initial push of PWA, and they are on target for that. So when Resident 4 rolls out in, I think, early April, it will have full PWA support in the Microsoft Store. And what's significant about the announcement Microsoft made this week is that they announced that they're going to be sort of automatically adding PWAs to the store, regardless of whether the developer has published it to the store or not. And that works with some metadata things, so it's not like Microsoft is stealing apps. In the metadata for a PWA, a developer can say, hey, I would like this app to be, added to stores if people want to do it. And so if those PWAs are saying that yes, they allow that, then they will be added to the store by Microsoft. Then also I think there's like a high quality threshold as well, so Microsoft won't be adding like crap into the store.
Well, have you seen the store now?
Oh, wow. They will be sort of like, they should be looking into it and making sure that at least relatively high quality PWAs are going in. And that's significant. And I've seen a lot of people sort of claim this as the death of UWP and how, PWAs, Microsoft's adoption of PWA isn't a bad thing, I don't think. I don't think anybody thinks it's a bad thing. The PWA stuff may even save Windows 10, the Microsoft storefront, and even Microsoft's future mobile efforts. Now, again, that's a long way out, and PWA is still pretty early right now in the sense that it's not going to replace like Premiere Pro, for example. And I don't think PWA will in any time soon. It's not a platform designed for that.
It's not intended to.
Right.
Yeah.
It's a, for those who don't know, PWA stands for Progressive Web App, and it's essentially a website that sort of behaves like an app, and you can add certain features and functions to it. For example, a developer can build this PWA that works across Windows, iOS, and Android, submit that PWA to the store, and add specific features and functions that work on each one. So, for example, a PWA from Twitter, if they were to make one, could support live tiles and actionable notifications and all of the other stuff that you would expect a Windows 10 app to support, and also be available on iOS and Android as well, and always be up to date. That's the benefit of UWP, and it's why Microsoft is adopting this platform.
Exactly. I think PWAs could be one of the biggest things to come to Microsoft Store in a really long time.
Yes, I think so too.
And let's go to Twitter for an example. Twitter, I presume, has a team that probably develops the Android one, their Android app. They have another one that probably develops iOS, and they have someone that develops Windows. Well, when 280 characters came out, does Windows even have it now?
No,
I still, the Windows app, the Twitter app on Windows 10 still doesn't support 280 characters. If it was powered by if it was a PWA, it would, because they would have updated all that server side and all that would have changed already. And the reason that this is so good for Microsoft, and it's kind of funny, it's kind of sad really, is PWA is worth doing for developers that don't care one iota about Windows or Microsoft.
Right.
They're looking and they're saying, we have all those people doing Android, we got all those people doing iOS, we got these people doing maybe Mac OS, depending on what the service is, maybe Chrome, optimizing it for Chromebook size screens, whatever. And then say, now we can just do a PWA and it can now go on all of those platforms. And then Microsoft can kind of swoop in and be like, oh, that's cute. Okay, we'll take that now. Thanks. Put that in the store.
Yeah.
And the developer, as long as they're okay with it, I guess, I'm assuming they have to put it in their manifest somewhere that says it's fine. Microsoft just gets the benefits of that.
Right.
It's not going to do everything. It's not going to be everything. But I think it would help the little things. People talk about there's two prongs of the app gap. There's the app not being there, and there's the app not being the same quality on Microsoft products as it is on Google and iOS. And when you have PWAs, that helps solve one of the two big problems of the app gap.
I think so too, and it's interesting as well because, again, like I said, a few people were like, "Oh, this must be the beginning of the end for UWP," and I kind of disagree with this statement. While PWA isn't UWP, the PWAs that run on Windows will technically be UWP, although Microsoft's definition of UWP has changed quite a bit over time. I
used to say UWA.
UWA, yeah, I mean, I think they're interchangeable.
Been gone for years.
The PWAs, if they tap into UWP APIs, including things like, actionable notifications, live tasks, and all that other stuff, technically they are UWP, even though they're not, truly built on the universal Windows platform. And I think PWAs will be able to run across Windows devices. I mean, Windows 10 Mobile maybe not, because obviously that's been left behind, but any other Windows 10 device that's up to date should be able to run the UWP without it having to be built specifically for a certain device or OS. So it should be technically universal. And it's not just universal across Windows, since it is a PWA. It's a web app, it's a website. It's universal across every platform. Which is why
if someone's using it, on the internet or whatever, it's fine.
Yeah.
Another good thing about PWA is it has access to more parts of your system, assuming you give it permission, of course. So now on just normal websites, it's pretty normal when you go onto a website, it says, can this website access your location? And you say yes. Well, PWAs have the ability, assuming you give permissions, to have access to more things. Well, for years I've been saying some things don't need an app. They just don't. It's nice to have certain apps. I use apps all the time. I'm using like 4 right now. But you don't need an app for certain things, specifically like shopping websites. If Amazon came out with a PWA and it had all the features that you see on the Android app, but you could use it on Windows products, that would be fine. Like, you don't need everything in the world to be a natively coded UWP app. And PWA makes it more accessible. Before it was like, okay, well, they only have access to like your location. So they need a website and a location, and does it scale correctly to mobilize it? But now it's taken that one step even further, and then even beyond that, because it can have access to other things and other parts of your system. So there are more websites that can be just websites. Of course, they're actually not just websites, as opposed to making them have to have an app. Like I said, Amazon's a big one. I'd love to see an Amazon PWA. Google's pretty big on PWA. There's a Google Maps one. Twitter's pretty big on it. They got a Twitter Lite one. You've used that one before, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And it's nice. I would love to see some of these, especially if for some reason Google can't say no. I'd love to see Google Maps PWA on a Windows device.
Yeah, I mean, it would be interesting to see how Google and Microsoft either work together or not work together in regards to PWA, because Microsoft and Google are all in on PWA. They have said so. And I mean, PWA is technically Google's thing, but they're the ones who sort of started this whole thing. And Microsoft looked at that and went, that's a good idea. I want to do that as well. And they literally said, okay, we'll just adopt PWAs as well. And I think Apple have recently announced that they too will be adopting PWAs via Safari.
And Firefox already supports it, I think, on mobile.
Chrome does as well. Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting. I do think this will be the savior of the Microsoft Store, and possibly even save Microsoft's future mobile efforts, especially in regards to Andromeda, because the biggest issue when it comes to versions of Windows that don't run Win32 programs is the app stuff. It's like, there's no apps. If Andromeda would launch, if PWAs didn't exist, Andromeda would launch with a broken Twitter app, probably not even WhatsApp. I don't think WhatsApp, there's no rumors that Microsoft WhatsApp is building an app for Andromeda, unfortunately. There'll be the broken Twitter app, a really rough Facebook app. It would be very rough for Andromeda. But if PWA does take off, like we're all hoping it will, then perhaps there is a future for Windows.
For example, Facebook probably won't do this. They seem to be happy with their own bridges. But if they made one, it'd be great. I agree with you completely. And they do different things. Microsoft has never been perfect when it came to the store. I don't want to say that they've been perfect. I don't want to say they couldn't have done things better, because they could have. But you now have successful bridges for all sorts of different things. Centennial for desktops. You and I are using Slack right now. I've used all sorts of products that are Centennial. You have Islandwood to bring over iOS stuff, and now you're going to have PWAs to bring over a web interface that, as you pointed out, is going to be backed by Apple and Google. How often do you get that? Apple is often proprietary. And it's, the HomePod doesn't support things that it's mesmerizing, like the lack of Bluetooth support on a speaker that expensive. And they're behind this. So that's a big deal, because when Apple adopts something, whether it's contact payment through phones or whatever, everybody else starts picking it up. Everybody says, we got to do that because of iPhones, particularly in the Western world. So everyone's going to want to make PWA. It's not going to do everything. Like you said, you're not going to get full video editing through this, but you're not supposed to. I think they're going to be a big deal, though.
Yeah, PWA at least will help Windows get the sort of core apps it needs. Things like a proper Amazon app. Or
the top 50
Twitter
downloads kind of thing. This fills out a few more of those.
Yeah, I mean, because I think the Amazon app on iOS and Android is technically half PWA anyway. I think it might have a native wrapper, but the actual content within the app is just their mobile website, I think. I might be wrong on that. It definitely looks like it's the mobile website.
If you click mobile.twitter or whatever the link, when you're already in the Twitter app, it just kind of reopens Twitter where it was.
Yeah.
So there's obviously something going on there.
And all I would need for a PWA, because the Amazon app on Windows 10 sucks. Let's be honest, it's rubbish. If they were to do a proper PWA one with support for some of the Windows 10 specific tie-ins, such as notifications, that's all I need. Because all I want an Amazon app to do is I click in it, I'll click buy, and then I want the app to tell me when the item's shipped or when it's on its way. That's all I want. Yep. And the current app doesn't do that on Windows. It does on iOS, it does on Android, it doesn't on Windows. But hopefully PWA will sort of make that transition.
There's not many things it needs to access to be able to do that. Push notifications and a few other things. Location services maybe for tracking.
Yeah.
Where I guess we wouldn't need them for that because tracking the package, not you. But yeah, we'll see. I mean, those are just a few examples. Yeah, we'll see what happens. But it could be very exciting. Yeah.
Now, moving on to some less exciting news and some sort of confusing news depending on how you read the story. Windows 10 S is dead. Microsoft's sort of half... weird sort of SKU is no more. Microsoft's is killing Windows 10 S and instead turning it into a mode that runs on top of existing SKUs. Now, I personally think that doesn't mean Windows 10 S is dead. Microsoft is going to continue using the phrase Windows 10 S when talking about Windows 10 PCs running in S mode. But a few reports were like, yeah, this means Windows 10 S is dead. And while technically that's true, they're only talking about it in regard to these specific Windows 10 S SKUs. So for those who don't know, Windows 10 S was always a sort of mode that ran on top of Pro. Windows 10 S, the SKU was Windows 10 Pro, but with the limitation of running apps just from the store.
It was an artificial limitation.
Right. And what they've done here is they've killed the different SKU because they're like, we don't really need a different SKU. Just make it a mode that runs on top of other versions of Windows. So there'll be Windows 10 S, Windows 10 Pro in S mode, and there'll also be a Windows 10 Home in S mode, which is sort of news in the sense that before it was Pro, that was S only, really. But now they're doing a home version, and Microsoft is changing the upgrade sort of rules as well here. So a device that ships with Windows 10 Home in S mode can upgrade to full Windows 10 Home for free, which is different from how Windows 10 S upgrade currently works, because since Windows 10 S is technically Windows 10 Pro, to do that upgrade, it costs $50 after March. I think it's free right now, but after March, it will cost $50. That still applies with Windows 10 Pro in S mode. That will be a $49 upgrade to get the full version of Pro. But if you're using Home, that's a free upgrade, which is very interesting because it sort of eliminates that weirdness that Windows 10 S had, in the sense that if you buy a Windows 10 S PC, you kind of want to upgrade to Pro just because the Pro upgrade is free and it's there and it's limited. If the Pro upgrade was free forever, I think more people would have stayed on S because it's like, I could do that whenever I want. But since it was a limited time offer, I think a lot of people had the mindset that, I got to do this now because otherwise I'm going to miss it. And that's the issue I think I had with the original Windows 10 S upgrade to Pro sort of thing. But the Windows 10 Home stuff fixes that. So an OEM can load Windows 10 Home in S mode onto a device that's technically still Windows 10 S. And the user, whenever they want to, they can switch from Home to Pro if they, from Home S mode to just normal Home, and get access to, downloading programs from a web browser, for example, which is nice. I think that's really nice.
It is. I've always thought that Windows 10s was kind of weird.
I like the idea.
If Windows 10s was what we think it could be in the future, this lightweight UWP optimized taking out legacy thing, I would see its place completely.
Yeah.
They would say, this is the lightweight. You need it for school. You don't need it for heavy duty work. It can do web browsing, UWP apps, which now include Centennial, PWA, and all Islandwood, all that jazz. But it doesn't have legacy stuff. Zach can't do the podcast on it because he can't access the control panel settings he needs. But the benefit is it's faster, it's sleeker, there's less bugs, and it's easier to use, and the battery life is better. I'd be like, cool, that's a thing, it's over there. And then they said Home and Pro, maybe it would replace Home, I don't know. But they say Pro is over there, and that's for your gamers and your heavy-duty, video editing, photo editing, whatever, all that sort of stuff. Then they make sense. But to me, as an end user, not from a coding perspective, Windows 10s never felt that different than just having Windows 10 and then selecting the option to block downloading apps from outside the store.
Right. Those
felt the same. I can toggle that on this PC right now. Mm-hmm. And I think I have set it up to say, ask me if I'm going to download something else. Maybe I certainly can do that if I haven't. Mm-hmm. And as an end user, I just never noticed that much of a difference between S and that.
Yeah.
So I don't understand the benefit of it until it becomes what we've talked about before.
That's kind of the issue I had as well. When Microsoft first pitched Windows 10s to the public, they were like, here is a streamlined, fast, secure version of Windows. It's the modern... And it wasn't. It's just normal Windows 10 with an artificial limitation, as you said. So the Windows 10 SKU being sort of killed off in favor of it running as a mode on Windows 10 Home and Windows 10 Pro is... I think it's a good one because it means it can get into the hands of more people quicker. And especially in regards to home users don't feel like they're going to run out of time and get that free upgrade to a full version of Home. That's always there. It's like a switch. And the same applies to Pro, except you have to pay the $50 fee.
Can I say, one of the comments, Home Toy 444 made a really good point. They said, should make Windows 10s completely free for anybody that wants to download and put it on any of their systems.
Yeah, you would think so, right?
I would think that'd be great. You could make S free eventually, and not like today, not S as it is today, but like eventually you could have S be free and then Pro be paid.
Yeah.
Eventually that could save OEMs money. Then all of a sudden you see $100 off laptops that you sell.
I think Windows 10 Home in S mode is cheaper than Windows 10 Home for OEMs. So OEMs get different pricing when it comes to Windows. There's also different categories and stuff depending on the specs or whatever else that you're building a PC to sell. But I think Microsoft does offer Windows 10 Home in S mode as a cheaper Windows license than the unlocked version of Home or the unlocked version of Pro.
It should be dramatically cheaper. I don't know what the pricing structure is.
I don't think I know either. But yeah, so maybe that's a small incentive. And this will help low-end devices. So, devices like the HP Stream, which costs, sub $300. Even saving $10 on a license is significant because it means that you can pass those savings on to the consumer as well. So if you're buying a $200 laptop that came with Windows 10 Home, which costs, I don't know, $20, $30, I don't know how much the licenses are for OEMs, but then Windows 10 Home in S mode is $10. That's $20 saving, and you can cut that off the actual retail price.
That's a few months off. It's $365 or something.
Yeah, I mean, it should make low-end laptops cheaper at least. I mean, in regards to the premium high-end stuff, it'll be less noticeable, and maybe even OEMs will decide to just eat that cost and load full versions of Windows onto their devices, which I'm sure many will, because I think the only sort of mainstream premium laptop to sell with Windows 10 S right now is the Surface laptop, and we don't actually really know how well that did in regards to users upgrading to Windows 10 Pro from S. We do have numbers from Thurrott.com, which said that 60% of users using Windows 10 S on low-end laptops didn't upgrade, which was a significant number in my mind. I would have thought it would be way more, but turns out no. Over half of the people using Windows 10 S on low-end devices aimed at the educational market and whatnot, they don't upgrade, and that may be because, administrator rights and whatever else and policies set by IT people.
Or they just didn't run into a situation where they needed to upgrade. They didn't try to download something and then it said you can't download this, so they didn't care.
Yeah, but I mean, that could be as well. And unfortunately, we don't know the exact numbers for this. We only know the 60% number, so we don't really know how many Windows 10 S PCs there are. There could only be 10 in the world, in which case, 6 people not upgrading is not... But, we don't know. But 60% on its own, assuming that more than 10 were sold, that's quite significant, I think.
Well, You've probably bought like 5 at this point. So, I mean, what
Yeah.
a beach color, right?
Yeah, I use
Yeah,
Windows
well,
10S on
I thought
everything.
the other interesting stat, I believe, from the same article was if people did switch, they switched pretty much immediately.
Yes, true. So
And
it's,
so people either didn't switch at all or they switched right away most of the time.
I assume that
Which
would be people just going to Edge and trying to download Chrome and realizing, oh, I got a Switch. Let's do that now then.
or people just generally that like the Surface laptop hardware but want Pro on their device,
Yeah.
which is I would imagine quite a few people. If you're going to drop, I never thought S fit on the Surface laptop. If you're going to spend $1,000 or £1,000 on a laptop, why do you want it limited?
Yeah.
I just don't get it. I don't understand. If it was like Surface on ARM, 300-pound thing, yeah, whatever. Okay, fine. But like £1,000 on a laptop, you don't want them to say, oh, but you can't download Chrome.
Yeah, I mean, I actually used Windows 10S on my laptop for quite a while. I actually forgot I was using this because I go to the store for everything. And now I know I'm not a normal person in that regard. Most people just download things from the web browser because that's just what they're used to. But for me, I can get pretty much everything I would want to use on a laptop from the store. Now, of course, you can't get things like Premiere Pro or XSplit or whatever.
But
and
you don't use that on your laptop.
I
very
don't use that
often.
on my laptop, right? I use, and we'll talk more about that at the end of the show when I talk about my Surface laptop
Yeah.
preferences and stuff. But I actually have a dedicated PC workstation for that. So
Yep.
my laptop is more than fine with downloading Centennial apps from the store and UWPs and soon PWAs because that's all I really use on a laptop kind of device. Now, I know some people actually have workstations as laptops, like the high-end Surface Books are very much capable of replacing a workstation PC.
Particularly with docks and things that make it so easy to do that.
And in that case, yes, Windows 10S on a Surface Book wouldn't make sense. But I don't think Microsoft was aiming the laptop at the sort of power user market. They were aiming it more at the MacBook market, the
They were
mainstream
aiming.
market.
I think they were aiming at kids with parents that bought them laptops.
And college students, I think. As
Yeah,
well.
that's what I think. That I'm about to go to university. My parents are gonna buy me a laptop as a gift. The Surface one looks pretty cool. Let's buy it. I think that's who they were aiming it at, and that's fine. The better Surface does, the better. What's good for the goose, good for the gander, right? But basically, what you're saying is, I'm going to be building a gaming PC this year, and you're telling me that I should do Windows 10 Home and S mode on it. Is that what you're saying?
No, I'm not. Well, this was the other thing as well. Some gamers, for some reason, I don't know why, started complaining that, oh my god, Microsoft is turning S on by default on computer. That's not what's happening. And Microsoft is giving the OEM more options to load S mode onto devices, but this isn't a consumer side thing that you're going to be confronted with. You're not just suddenly going to have an S mode PC once you upgrade to Redstone 4, for example. If you're using normal Windows 10 Home or Windows 10 Pro already, you're fine. When S mode will not affect you, this is not going to be something that Microsoft springs on top of you out of the blue. You're more than fine. Existing devices will remain behaving as they already are. This is a change for new devices that ship with Windows. So you can have, for example, a laptop from Dell that they load Windows 10 Pro onto it, and that's a normal Windows 10 Pro. Then they have a slightly lesser laptop that has Windows 10 Pro in S mode, and then that has and you have to pay the $50 upgrade fee, for example. So that's what's happening in that regard. Now, I kind of want to tread into speculative territory here.
All right.
The Windows 10 S SKU, the specific SKU, now that it runs as a mode, has been killed. So we've gone back to two SKUs, Windows 10 Home and Windows 10 Pro. The Windows 10 S idea isn't gone. It's still a version of Windows that's locked to the store, and it still has all the same security benefits and whatever else that Windows 10 S provided as its own separate SKU. But they're not killing Windows 10 S. The idea is remaining. Microsoft will still advertise these laptops as Windows 10 S laptops. So I'm wondering if the reason they killed the SKU now is so they can make room for that light version of Windows, as you mentioned a minute ago, Sean, with built on Windows Core OS, as we've talked about before, Polaris, for example, and call that Windows 10 S, because that would be a true light version of Windows. And then the S mode is just like, oh yeah, here's a mode of S. It's not S, but it's a mode of S that has the same sort of security enhancements. It may not have the same streamlined, base and whatever else, but it still gives you the same lock to the store, make sure things are secure and whatever else. And that's why it's called mode. Whereas the full version of Windows 10, or the full version, the actual Windows 10 S would be a proper streamlined version with C Shell and no legacy program support and all that stuff. I think that'd be very interesting.
It would be. I'm going to echo the sentiments of the man that I'm sitting in place of today, Daniel Rubino. When he talks about Windows 10 ARM, doesn't he usually say that the end user is not supposed to notice the difference?
Yes.
I would say that's generally the goal for all of this. And Microsoft can call whatever they want, whatever they want. I think the ultimate goal would be at some point in the future, someone buys a laptop from the store or ships it or whatever. They open it up, it does what they want, and it works. And whether that happens to be S Mode or Polaris or Pro, I don't really care. Personally, I care because I like tech stuff. But I think what's going to actually determine if Microsoft succeeds or fails in this, realm of conversation is going to be, are the reviewers saying what they used to do when it came to Lumias? Yeah. It's great hardware, the camera's good, but it's on Windows 10 Mobile. Or, because you could see that, people would say, this is a beautiful laptop, it works great, it's on Windows 10S, you're going to want to upgrade that right away. That's what I saw with the Surface laptop reviews. Most video reviews I saw that pretty much just said I immediately upgraded, or I tried it for a bit and then I upgraded. If there's a point where people stop saying that in the reviews, that'd be great. If people say, the battery life is great, or it's really secure, or it's really easy to use, that will be when Microsoft, in my opinion, is starting to see real success.
Mm-hmm. And again, tying back to the PWA stuff, I think it will also depend quite heavily on whether PWAs take off. If somebody buys a PC that can't run apps from outside the store, they want apps to be in the store, and the PWA can hopefully help that app gap that Windows seems to be suffering from even today. So it's going to be very interesting to see how Windows is in the next 5 years or so, especially with the introduction of Windows Core OS and things like Polaris and Andromeda.
I cannot wait to buy. Well, I mean, I'm going to wait, but I can't wait to buy one of these lightweight Windows 10 powered by ARM running S mode or some sort of lightweight version. I can't wait to have one of those. It'll be so exciting when all of these come together. The problem is, can Microsoft kind of drag things along and keep public perception up until that happens? Because I think generally for like you and me, I like Windows, you like Windows, but the store, the public's view of the store is very low. Mm-hmm. And so they need to kind of keep that alive best they can until some of this other stuff comes out. Because once you get that device, I think it'd be really exciting, but they do have to get there before more and more things die.
I think we'll see this year, and this isn't based on anything, this is me genuinely thinking, I think we'll see Microsoft push the store a bit more this year. I think we'll see more apps, whether they be Win32 or PWA, whatever. I think we'll see more big name apps show up in the store. Hopefully Twitter will redo their app as PWA because their current Windows 10 app is beyond dreadful at this point. I mean, it used to be good. When it first launched, it was like, yeah, this is nice. I can see this going somewhere. And then they essentially abandoned it. It hasn't received an update in God knows how long. It doesn't have most of the new features. And it kind of sucks. So hopefully, PWA is our savior in that regard. So I just want a working Twitter app on Windows. That's all I ask for in the world. That's all I want. I don't care about any other app. Just Twitter.
You want to know how out of date the Twitter app is on Windows 10?
Go on.
It doesn't have ads in
it. True, it doesn't have ads, which is one benefit, I guess.
It is ad-free Twitter.
Yeah.
Which is weird.
Yeah. Because
you would think that they would at least put that in there.
Even I think Instagram on Windows 10 is also ad-free.
I don't understand it.
Yeah, it is weird. But yeah, I mean, I'm pretty excited to see how Microsoft goes about this sort of Windows Core OS, Windows 10S, and S mode.
And I can't wait to review PWAs.
Yes, that's going to be very exciting as well.
It's this week I'm reviewing a website. It's very nice.
It has actionable notifications. Yay!
This website has a live tile.
Yes, exactly. I want live tiles and actionable notifications. That's all I want from PWAs. Okay, so let's move on to our second to last story. Build 2018. This is, Microsoft does a Build developer conference every year. This is where they sort of announce all the new features coming in the next version of Windows, all the new developer APIs, and all the new things that developers can use to create beautiful apps that run on Windows. And they've announced the dates, May 7th to May 9th this year, which is pretty much the same as it was last year. Last year it was May 10th to the 12th. Now it's 7th to the 9th. So slightly earlier, in the same place, Seattle, and registration, or is it registration? Yeah, the registration opens on February 15th for developers. So if you are interested in attending Build, you can do so on February 15th, register. This is interesting, however, because this runs basically parallel with Google I/O, which is Google's developer conference for the year. And some people have wondered, does this mean Build will be empty this year because developers are going to Google, or maybe Google's will be empty because they're going to Windows?
I doubt that.
Yeah,
it's not the second one,
right? I mean, yeah, it's going to be very interesting to see if Microsoft can stand up head to head with Google and see who gets more developers. Because it'll be interesting. Because Build usually sells out quite quickly. They usually fill up pretty quickly once registration opens, and then that's it. But it'll be interesting to see how long it takes build to fill up this year. It's going to be very exciting. On the build website, they do say that they're going to be focusing on some weird things. So it says, where brilliant devs and industry game changers come together at Microsoft's ultimate developer event with cloud, artificial intelligence, mixed reality, and more, you can build what's next. And they're going to be doing... you can join demos, meetups, deep dives, celebrations, or take a break and catch some live music. However you think, learn, work, and play, your schedule is yours to build. Then there's all a bunch of other things. Your tribe, your vibe. Bounce ideas off industry experts, hang out with new connections, or chat with the latest over a brew. It's a laid-back conference apparently this year. But yeah, I'm very excited.
Like a Windows Insider meetup.
It does actually. A big developer meetup. But yeah, I mean, me and Dan will hopefully be there. It should be pretty exciting. Now, in regards to things to expect, I'm not too sure. I mean, I've heard some things that I'm not too confident in talking about just yet, but I think it'll be an interesting one. This will be the one to attend if you can attend this year, I think. Yeah,
we'll see. I mean, you're going to Seattle. That'd be fun.
Yeah, hopefully.
I used to live out that way.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, I used to live about 20 minutes from Redmond.
Wow.
Snoqualmie Falls is great. Definitely go. Anyway, yeah, it'll be interesting. Attendance-wise, I think I've never been to one of these conferences. I assume there's quite a bit that goes on that's not streamed worldwide. And that's what people are going to miss out on. The public, I'm not sure how much we're going to miss out on. Like me, I'm not going. I guess I'm also pressed. But I'm not going to either of these. But I could watch the live streams of both, even if they're simultaneous. I could watch one and then watch the other the next day. But it's all the meetings and the meetups and the discussions in person at these conferences that a developer is going to have to choose, right? They're going to have to choose because it's not just the same week. It's quite literally there's 2 days that they overlap.
Yeah.
And they're going to have to choose which one of these developer conferences do I go to? Which one do I prioritize, Microsoft or Google? And I recognize that these types of things and venues and stuff are built. Well, actually, it's at Microsoft campus, isn't it?
No, it's at the Seattle.
Oh, okay. In that case, it makes sense. The venues are booked in advance.
Yes.
But why did they put it in May? That's my question. Well, maybe we'll find out. Maybe we won't. Google I/O is always in May.
Yeah.
We looked. For the last multiple years, it's been in May. Why would you put your conference the same month as a major Google developer conference?
It was May last year as well at Microsoft, and I think they're getting May because that's when the conference is available. The conference center is available in Seattle. Usually they do build in San Francisco, but the San Francisco Convention Center, whatever they call it, is, I think, undergoing repairs, which is why they're not there last year and this year and possibly next year. So perhaps maybe May's the only time the conference center in Seattle is able to house Microsoft.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see.
Because before, build would be all over the place. And when it first started, build was in September. Then they changed it to April, I think. Then it was March one year. So it's moved around quite a bit. And for last year and this year, it's been in May. I don't mind it in May. May's pretty. It's nice.
No, it's fine for us, but there will be people who have to choose between which one they attend. But
Google usually does I/O towards the middle of May, towards the middle or towards the end of May. And so Google is doing it earlier this year than they usually do. Now, again, I don't think Google or Microsoft were being malicious here. I think they both just planned their events way in advance, and it overlapped, and that's just an unfortunate coincidence. But yeah, it'll be very interesting to see how developers choose if they are developing cross-platform. I mean, if you're an Android developer, then you're obviously going to go to the Google I/O one anyway. But
and a lot of these people are going to have multiple people on one team. They could send one to each. But I would also say we've had some pretty big announcements at Build in the past. All the bridges like Centennial and Islandwood, they were announced at Build, and I assume it's not always the most exciting. It's not, hey, look, 24 Surfaces have come out, but there often is very noteworthy news out of Build. So I'm excited to see it, and I'm sure, like I said, we're planning on having at least 2 people there, if not more.
Yeah, I mean, I've spitballed this idea before, but perhaps Microsoft are planning to do an early unveiling of Andromeda, because we think, based on sources and stuff, that the final version of Andromeda will be released in the fall this year. So, October, November.
Released or announced?
Well, it'll come out in the fall. We don't know when the announcement will be. So if Microsoft were to announce Andromeda early and give developers a head start in building Andromeda-specific apps, that could be an interesting play. So we'll have to wait and see what happens at Build. I have heard it will be a very interesting year for those of you who are interested.
The question is, when Andromeda does come out, what old song will they have a new rendition of during that nice advert?
Yeah, that's true. Oh,
Surface Team does good ads.
they do very good ads. I love every Surface ad is amazing. I still think the original Surface RT ad's the best one with that guy dancing and stuff and throwing the keyboards around. That's pretty cool. But ever since then, they've been sort of like, oh yeah, mystical, modern, yeah, using songs remixes and stuff. But yeah, so build will be very exciting. It'll be interesting to see what shows up this year. All right, so moving on to our last story of this episode, the Surface Laptop versus Surface Book 2. Now, I had the chance recently to mess about with the Surface Book 2. I had previously stated before I had the chance to mess about with the Surface Book 2 that I was happy with my Surface laptop. I had no interest in upgrading to the Book 2. Microsoft sent me one anyway, like, hey, just try it out. And I stand by my original claim. I prefer the Surface laptop over the Book 2. Now, a lot of people on the internet especially hate me for this statement. They think I'm crazy and that because the Book 2 is like the perfect ultimate Surface. And I don't disagree. The Surface Book 2 is the perfect Surface. It has everything you could possibly want. However, I don't need everything. I don't need everything the Surface Book 2 offers. And it's not only that, but it's also the design of the Surface Book. I bought the Surface Book 1 originally because it was the first Surface that was a laptop first and foremost. That could also be a tablet. It wasn't like the Surface Pro, which was primarily a tablet that could pretend to be a laptop. The Book was a laptop, and at the time it was Microsoft's only real laptop offering, which is why I got one. And I bought one and I used it and I did love it. But when they announced the Surface laptop, that was sort of as if Microsoft had looked at my Christmas list and said, let's build what he wants. It was a true, like, no consequence laptop. It didn't have a stupid hinge. It didn't have a top-heavy display. It was a laptop first and foremost. And that's all I had ever wanted Microsoft to build. So when I got one, I was like, yes, this is it. I don't buy my laptops as powerhouse devices. I know people do. People buy laptops, super powerful laptops that they can go out and do video editing on away from home. I don't do that. I have a PC workstation for video editing and producing, live streams like this, for example, that I use, that's tied to like an Ethernet cable and stuff at home or in the office here. My laptop is usually just for web browsing and procrastinating and doing, office work on the go. I've never been in a car and gone, oh my God, I need to edit this video right now. It's never happened. And I buy like that. So the Surface laptop is more for me. It comes with Windows 10s, for example, and Windows 10s is more than fine for me. The Book is heavier, it's thicker when closed, and it's more expensive, and those trade-offs aren't worth what I would use it for. The Book 2 is too much for me, and even me being a, I guess, tech nerd or whatever you want to call it, the Book 2 is too much for me. The Book line of devices it has too many features and functions that I'm just not going to need or want or use. And it's not worth the extra price you pay for that if I'm not going to use it. The laptop is cheaper and it does everything I need plus more.
And that's coming from a guy who owns a Surface table.
True. I do own a Surface table, yes. But my Surface laptop looks great on top of the Surface table, by the way.
Yeah, I think that you're not alone. If I could afford it, I would prefer a laptop that was lightweight and to do what you're talking about. Excuse me. Maybe with the option to do light video editing, or like if you need to do photo editing.
There is a Surface laptop SKU that can do that. It's the higher end 16 gig.
Yeah, exactly.
With,
But I go back to what you said. It's the form factor for me.
Yeah.
The Surface laptop looks better to me than the Surface Book. I think
agree.
the Surface Book has a big hinge. It doesn't close flat. It's top heavy. When you touch the top screen, it wobbles too much. At least the first one did. Does the second one do that?
It's slightly improved, but
it's slightly improved. But if you write on it with the pen, does it move quite a bit?
Yes.
How about compared to the laptop, which moves more?
I haven't compared them. I rarely use the pen on the laptop.
Yeah. But to me, the Surface Book is a good idea.
Mm-hmm.
But ultimately, I would prefer if it looked like the Surface laptop. Now, if they, in 3 years, can manage to do a Surface laptop, all I really want is just, like what you said, it's a Surface laptop, but has more power as an option. And I know the detachable thing, they'll have to figure something out. But to me, that hinge, it's a beautiful piece of engineering. Like, it's impressive that they can do it, but I don't like it.
Right.
And that's where I'm coming in.
Yeah, I mean, I think the Surface Book line is a little bit more cumbersome. And I think that's by design. It's a laptop that does more than just one thing. It's a hybrid. It does laptop mode as well, and it does tablet mode. So if you are somebody who needs a pen and tablet every now and then, the Book 2 is obviously the better option for you. Now, again, a lot of people have been like, but the 15-inch, there's only a 15-inch book. There isn't a 15-inch laptop. I don't like 15-inch laptops.
I don't want a 15-inch laptop.
I prefer the smaller 13-inch form factor over the 15-inch. Now, don't get me wrong, the 15-inch Surface Book 2 is lovely. I've tried one. They are impressive. They're beautiful. They're still not for me. I just don't need that. I want something slim, light, that can fit in my bag and I can forget about it. I don't want to have, the book. The book is... It's still it is the ultimate Surface. I don't argue that fact. I can even see that it's the ultimate Surface. It has the specs, it has the I/O, it has the ability to be more than one thing. It's a Surface through and through, but it's not for me.
Yeah, but Zach, they almost should have called it the Surface Binder because it doesn't close like a book. Yeah. It closes like a binder.
Yeah. No, you're
right. It's not a book. It like you said, it's technologically impressive. Some people go buy it and they love it, and that's fine. You do what makes you happy and meets your work meet. But for me, it's not for me. I would take one if someone wants to give me one, but if I had the money and I had to spend it on different things, I would buy a Surface laptop and build a PC at home for video editing rather than buy a Surface Book.
That's exactly me. Now, there are a couple of things that the Book does that I prefer over the laptop. The first being is the screen. The screen on the Book 2 is beautiful. And although the screen on the laptop isn't bad, since I've had the chance to compare them side by side, I can clearly see that the Book 2 screen is better. If you just bought a laptop without ever seeing a Book 1 or Book 2 screen, you wouldn't really notice the higher quality difference between them. And because the Surface laptop screen is more than fine. And the other thing is the metal keyboard base on the Book 2 over the Alcantara. Now, I don't mind the Alcantara on the laptop, but I do prefer the metal on the Book 2. I just like the cold feeling against my wrists compared to the sort of carpet feeling, I guess. That
they should have like a Surface laptop metal edition.
I would buy that in a heartbeat straight away. That'd be amazing.
Because it can't be that hard. I mean, it's just replacing them. It's not like re-engineering, right?
I don't think so. I mean, the Alcantara on the laptop is an interesting choice.
I assume the Alcantara is over metal anyway.
I don't think it is. I don't think it is.
So what if you took the Alcantara off? You're at a circuit board.
I think you have to cut it open. To get.
Yeah, but once you cut it open, what's under it?
I think it goes straight in.
Like the CPU?
I think so. I don't actually know.
All right, well, that's very impressive.
iFixit will
So
know.
They would have to re-engineer some things.
Hang on, let me check iFixit. But yeah, I mean, and a lot of people give me, crap for saying that, I prefer the laptop. But I do. Microsoft built the laptop. Microsoft aren't dumb. They didn't just build the laptop for nobody to buy. They built it because the Surface Book and the Surface Pro weren't targeting this market. And that market is me. The MacBook market, if you will. I mean, I'm not a MacBook user.
College kid is not going to buy a Surface Book 2 for going to lectures, generally. Right. I just don't see it. If they were going to spend that much money on a really high-end laptop, I think they go with the really high-end MacBook Pro.
Yes.
But if they want a thin and light, really attractive laptop, that's who the Surface laptop's trying to lure over. They go to the store and they walk, Microsoft has paid some money to put Surface in the front of the store, whether it's in the States, it could be Best Buy or whatever. And you walk in, and at Best Buy or Target or whatever store you go to has a Surface display up front. You go, oh, that's really attractive. I really like that. It's just like the Surface Studio.
Yeah.
The Surface Studio is so attractive that it would make anyone take a second look. And that's what the laptop, it's designed to be pretty and lure you in, because then when you start using it, you're happy with what it does.
Mm-hmm. Also, to clarify my Alcantara fabric point, the Alcantara is laid on a thin metal shield. Which...
They just need to make it a thick metal shield.
Exactly. But yeah, I mean, that's the other thing. The Alcantara, I don't mind it, but I would much prefer just, the aluminium frame to just cover the whole thing. Now, also, funny enough, the
Surface... magnesium?
Yeah, the Surface Book 2 uses magnesium, but the Surface laptop is aluminium. And I can tell the difference, and I do prefer the aluminium over the magnesium. The magnesium's nice, don't get me wrong, but I don't know, just the metal on the Surface laptop feels a bit more high quality. I don't know what it is. I don't know if that's technically true or not, but it definitely feels better.
Next, Surface Plastic.
Surface Plastic, yeah. But yeah, that's pretty much why I prefer the laptop. Now, funnily enough, I do, in my article on Windows Central, I do sign off talking about how I just don't need a laptop that can also be a tablet. I would much prefer a phone that can also be a tablet. which is what Andromeda may be. So I'm the perfect audience for that. But yeah, I mean, I've never been out and about with a laptop or a 2-in-1 and thought, you know what, I really need the tablet in this moment. But I've been out about with my phone and gone, I could be taking notes right now for this thing, and it would be really great. And I could, and that's what Andromeda could be. And
I can see that. My brother-in-law has an iPad that's really nice, and I think it's an iPad Pro. It's really nice, whatever it is. It's thin, it's lightweight, it does what he needs. He also has a laptop for when he needs to code and that sort of thing. And I have to say, generally having access, he lives with us, so having access to his iPad where we share it, we hand it around and whatever, it's really nice to have just like a thin, dedicated tablet. And I can see why you'd want that. And so, but like you said, when I'm on the go, I don't know how much I need that. It's almost like around the house, I need a 2-in-1 more. It's when I'm at my desk, I can type, it's a tab. And then when I want to watch a movie in bed, I break it off there, and it's just a tablet. That's more the use of a 2-in-1 for me. It's not so much when I'm out on the go. Oh, okay, in this lecture, I'm only going to do this and that. Maybe a little bit. Like I've used a tablet to take notes and things, but I do think there is a need for a 2-in-1, but it depends on the user. But a phone that could do that, I do think would be very attractive to quite a few people.
Yeah, I mean, and as well, I find that I'm in more need of using a tablet when I don't have a laptop with me. Because even if my laptop was a 2-in-1, I wouldn't have it with me anyway, because it's just like, So
yeah, but your phone you bring almost everywhere.
Exactly,
when I walk my dog,
yeah, the phone is with you everywhere. So a phone that can turn into a tablet, I think, is a lot more useful than a laptop that can turn into a tablet. And that's just my opinion. And again, it all comes down to use case. The Surface Book 2 will be a better choice for some people and not for others. In my case, the laptop is the better choice over the Pro and the Book. I did, when Surface first started, I did use the Surface RT, and I did upgrade to a Surface 3 after that. I just didn't really believe in the tablet that can replace your laptop form factor that Microsoft was pushing. Now, I did enjoy my Surfaces, and I did use them as much as I could, but I never really replaced my laptop. I still used my Dell XPS 13 at the time until the Book came along, and that's when I first started using the Book and loved it because it was the closest thing to a laptop. But then the Surface laptop came out and sort of just went, well, that's that. That's what I've been asking for. I've got to get that one now. And I haven't looked back.
I have a question for you, Zach.
Go on.
If they eventually made a phone that could fold open and be a tablet, and then when you got home could also be docked and work like a desktop,
that'd be nice.
I think that could replace quite a few devices for a lot of people.
Yeah, I mean, have you seen that Razer phone thing that you can dock into the sort of
yeah,
shell?
buddy. Oh, I want one of those.
If Andromeda could do that, then that could technically, I think that could also replace my laptop as well. If Microsoft built like a Surface laptop shell that was powered by the Andromeda device, that would be my ideal scenario. Because again, like I said,
we're getting into dreams and hopes here. It's not even released yet. We're gonna get it. We're gonna probably be happy with what it is, but it's not gonna be a 4-in-1 foldable magic device that is a phone, a tablet, a laptop, and a desktop.
I mean, maybe one day, but I mean that's how I think, and I am the perfect person for that. I want one device that does everything.
Yeah, so do I. I want a watch that has Continuum on it, mate. That's what I want.
But as long as it doesn't hinder my laptop when I need it. So if I can slide in the Andromeda so that it's like hidden and I don't see it, and then the laptop just looks like a laptop, I would be more than happy with that.
Yeah, well, there you go.
But yeah. So yeah, that's pretty much all we have time for today. We are almost at an hour. We're going to stay, if you're watching the live stream, of course, we are going to hang around for a little while and answer questions if you have them. Those of you watching the video on demand or the audio podcast here, we are going to leave you here, unfortunately, as always. But you can check us out on Twitter. You can follow me at Zach Bowden, ZACBOWDEN, and you can follow Sean Endicott on Twitter at Sean_Michael_Endicott. Would you like
to underscore UK.
Oh, Sean_Michael. Oh, I've done it wrong on the screen. Sean_Michael_UK. Of course it is. I apologise, Sean.
That's all right.
I'll hopefully get that edited.
I was wondering why I don't have a bunch of followers showing up on my phone.
I'll get that edited in the video version session. But yes, thanks so much for watching, guys, and we shall see you in the next episode. Dan should be back then, so we'll be back to normal. Thanks for watching, guys. Goodbye.